BBC News at midnight. This is David Harper. The G7 group of rich nations has reached a deal to make multinational companies pay more tax. Finance ministers from the 7 countries also agreed in principle to a global minimum corporate tax rate of 15%. Paul Monaghan, the chief executive of the Fair Tax Foundation, said it was a good start, but a higher rate would allow governments to achieve more.
If we move it up to 21%, the difference in the UK is quite stark. It moves from about 8 billion extra a year to 15 billion extra a year. So at 15 billion extra a year of corporation tax, you really could, for example, help rebuild our NHS to make it the fit for purpose entity that we all want it to be.
The head of the body, which represents health trusts in England, has said the number of people in hospital with the Delta variant of coronavirus is rising, but not very significantly. Chris Hobson from NHS Providers said many of those in hospital in Bolton, which has been worst hit by the variant, were younger, meaning there was less demand on critical care. 2 teenagers have been arrested on suspicion of murder after a 14-year-old was stabbed to death in Birmingham. Dijon Reed was killed in the King's Standing area on Monday night. A 14-year-old from Wolverhampton and a 16-year-old from Great Barr will appear in court on Tuesday. British interest in the French Open tennis singles has ended after Cameron Norrie was soundly beaten by Rafael Nadal in the 3rd round. Nadal, the 3rd seed, won in straight sets. Norrie said he was happy with the way he played.
All in all, I think great experience, and it was a physical match. It was not easy out there. I think he played very well. If you speak to him, I think he thought it was a very good match. Enjoyed it, a great experience, and just move on to the grass and get ready for some more.
Mo Farah faces missing out on a place at the Tokyo Olympics after failing to qualify in the European 10,000-metre Cup in Birmingham. He placed 8th in the race, 22 seconds short of the required time. He'll have another chance to meet the qualifying standard in 3 weeks. Events have taken place across Coventry as it kicked off its year as the UK's City of Culture. Due to COVID restrictions, people were urged to watch pop-up performances online. The celebrations included a number of classic cars travelling through the city to highlight its manufacturing history. Derek Nisbet worked on music for the event. He described what Coventry means to him.
It's an extraordinary place. It's full of surprises. I think it's always been underestimated. It's shown that it can rise, and that its symbol is the phoenix, and perhaps this year as City of Culture is another moment where it's blooming, and it's a chance for people to visit and challenge their expectations of what might be here.
And the weather dry for most of the UK this evening, but clouds and some spells of rain will push into the southwest of England. A few showers for Scotland too. Mostly dry tomorrow in Scotland and Northern Ireland, but rain will continue in England and Wales. BBC News at 3 minutes past midnight. With Anna. The Chancellor Rishi Sunak has announced what he called a historic agreement to reform the global tax system. Finance ministers from the G7 group want to introduce a global minimum rate of corporation tax of at least 15%. Vicky Price is a former government advisor on the economy.
It's going to take a little bit of time before he gets approved by everybody else and, in fact, implemented. So that's an issue. But the fact that a number of countries, the biggest ones, were able to sit down and agree on how they would like to see the whole issue of, if you like, tax avoidance by particularly the large tech firms can be tackled is pretty good news.
The plan also aims to stop major multinational companies from paying little or no tax in countries where they make money by diverting profits elsewhere. Facebook said it wanted the reform to succeed even if it pays more tax. Amazon also welcomed the move. Matt Kilcoyne from the economic think tank, the Adam Smith Institute, says the tax system needs to reflect the way modern business operates.
People intuitively think, I bought a product in Britain, I bought it from a company based in Britain, the tax must happen in Britain. But actually, the way in which the modern supply chain works, there are investments, logistics, marketing, intellectual property, trade, staff, pensions, various insurances, all of which actually happen right across the world. And so you book activity, you cross-subsidize operations across jurisdictions, which that give you, the consumer, at the end of the day, the cheapest price.
A senior NHS official says the UK vaccination programme appears to have broken the link between cases of COVID-19 and serious illness or death. Chris Hobson, the head of NHS Providers, which represents health service trusts in England, says people in hospital with the Delta variant of coronavirus are significantly younger, which is putting less of a strain on critical care. He also warned, though, that the decision on whether to fully lift restrictions in England later this month was finally balanced. The US Justice Department says it will stop secretly obtaining reporters' records during investigations into the origin of leaks. Democratic and Republican administrations have both used court orders in an effort to identify sources who have revealed classified information. Our North America correspondent David Willis has more.
In the past few weeks, it's emerged that Justice Department officials secretly obtained phone and email records from journalists at several news organisations during the Trump administration, among them the Washington Post and CNN, and continued doing so in the early days of the Biden administration. Now, the Justice Department has confirmed that it is bringing an end to a practice that has endured under multiple presidential administrations.
The former Prime Minister Tony Blair says he believes it is time to distinguish between people who have and have not been vaccinated in order to lift restrictions. Mr Blair said it makes no sense at all to treat people who've received a vaccine the same as those who haven't. BBC News at 1:03.
With Anna.
Meeting in Cornwall to make concrete commitments to vaccinate the whole world against coronavirus by the end of 2022. He will confirm
and vaccines are expiring on shelves. They argue that there is no
BBC News at 2:00. This is David Harper. More than 1,700 charities, business people and academics have written to the Prime Minister to warn that cuts to foreign aid risk undermining the UK's credibility at this week's G7 summit. The letter's been written ahead of a possible Commons vote tomorrow on overturning the reduction. Here's our political correspondent, Helen Catt.
The Chancellor announced late last year that the UK would reduce the amount it spends on foreign aid from 0.7% of the national income to 0.5%. In the letter, the charities and academics say that as a result, families are going hungry, girls are not going to school, and vaccines are expiring on shelves. They argue that there is no justifiable economic need for the cut because forecasts suggest the economy will return to pre-pandemic levels by the end of this year. They also warned that any calls made by the UK on other G7 leaders this week risked ringing hollow.
A government spokesperson said ministers were committed to returning to previous spending levels on aid when the fiscal situation allowed. The Prime Minister will call on fellow leaders at the G7 meeting in Cornwall to make concrete commitments to vaccinate the whole world against coronavirus by the end of 2022. He will confirm at the summit how many vaccines the UK will give developing countries. There's been a mixed reaction to a deal reached by the G7 finance ministers to make multinational companies pay more tax. Amazon welcomed the agreement. Facebook said it wanted the change to succeed, even if it resulted in paying more tax. But Professor Jayati Ghosh from the Independent Commission for the Reform of International Corporate Taxation says the plans don't go far enough.
First of all, you have to get rid of this nonsense that it is only on surplus profits, that it should be on all profits. That's the first minimum basic change that is required. And the second is, if G7 is really serious, then they should use the clause in their announcement that says a minimum of 15% to announce their own much higher tax rates.
The Education Secretary, Gavin Williamson, has called on pupils to take a coronavirus test before returning to school in England after the half-term break. Children and their families are advised to test themselves to identify asymptomatic cases. Tim Muffet reports.
More than 50 million rapid COVID tests have been taken by students across England since January. According to the Department for Education, only around 1% of state school students in England have been absent for COVID-related reasons each day since mid-April. But the National Association of Head Teachers says it's concerned by the latest data regarding the Delta variant of coronavirus first identified in India. It says a growing number of schools are having to send students home, especially in areas with higher case numbers.
The Home Secretary, Priti Patel, has called on social media companies to act quickly to remove online posts, which she describes as glamorising the journeys migrants make across the Channel to the UK. She said videos promoting the crossings were totally unacceptable. BBC News at 3 minutes at midnight. This is David Harper.